Hello guys, welcome to my channel on Educational Planet. So today's topic is pollination. So now let's get started. What is pollination? It is the transfer of pollen grains from anther and their deposition over stigma of the pistil is termed as pollination. सो व्हाट इज पॉलिनेशन? जो ट्रांसफ़र होता है पॉलन ग्रेन्स का एक एंथर से एंड डिपोजिशन ओवर द स्टिग्मा ऑफ द पिस्टल इज नोन एज पॉलिनेशन. It is basically of three types: autogamy, genitogamy, xenogamy, or you can call it also allogamy. Then what is autogamy? First of all, it is a self-pollination. So the transfer of pollen grains is from anther to the stigma of the same flower. Self-pollination is in the same flower only. Then self means आपस में. So pollen grains का transfer होता है anther से stigma तक का of the same flower. So what are the examples of it? Pea, rice, wheat, etc. Then the next one is genitogamy. It is the transfer of pollen grains is from anther of one it is of three types: autogamy, genitogamy, xenogamy, or you can call it to allogamy also. So what is autogamy? Auto, first of all, it is a self pollination. Okay, then the transfer of pollen grains is from anther to the stigma of the same flower. Means ट्रांसफ़र होना pollen grains का from the anther से stigma तक का of in the same flower. What are the examples of it? Pea, rice, wheat, etc. Then the next one is genitogamy. It is the transfer of pollen grains from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of same plant. Means वो एक same plant में ही है. Then it is also a self pollination. एक pollen grain का transfer होना anther से एक दूसरे flower तक to the stigma of another flower. Means anther से जाके वो दूसरे flower पर जा रहा है pollen grain, which is transferred to the stigma of another flower of the same plant is known as genitogamy. What is the example of it? Which is cucurbita. Then the next one is xenogamy or allogamy. It is the transfer of pollen grains is from anther of one flower. So ट्रांसफ़र होना pollen grains का from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower, it is the cross pollination. It is the self pollination, and this one is also self pollination. मीन्स ट्रांसफ़र होना पॉलन ग्रेन का एक फ्लावर से दूसरे फ्लावर तक, उसकी स्टिग्मा तक, किसी दूसरे डिफरेंट प्लांट में, फॉर एग्जाम्पल पपाया एंड मीट्स. देन इन दिस टॉपिक देयर इज two main terms also which can come as a one marker, or they can give you as a differentiate between them. So now let's learn them also. What differentiate between chesmogamous and clistogamous flowers? Clistogamous flowers are the closed ones and the chesmogamous flowers are the open flowers. So clistogamous are bisexual closed flowers which never open at all, and the anthers dehisces inside these closed flowers. For example, commelina. Then in the chesmogamous flowers, open flowers with exposed stamens and stigma which facilitate cross pollination. So in chesmogamous, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल दे आर द बाइसेक्सुअल फ्लावर्स एंड द क्लोज्ड वंस, जो कि कभी ओपन नहीं होते हैं, एंड जो स्टिग्मा होते हैं वो डीहाइसेंस करते हैं अंदर ही इन दीज क्लोज्ड फ्लावर्स. एंड इन चेस्मोगेमस ये ओपन जो होते हैं, इनके स्टेमन्स एंड स्टिग्मा आर एक्सपोज टू फैसिलिटेट द क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन, सो दैट द क्रॉस पॉलिनेशन कैन अकर इन दीज फ्लावर्स. सो दैट्स वाई स्टिग्मा और उनका जो स्टेमन होता है वो बाहर ऑलरेडी दिख रहा होता है, लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल चाइना रोज. Then coming up to the next topic is what are the agents of pollination. So there are two agents. First one is abiotic reagents and the second one is biotic reagents. Then biotic reagents means the living reagents and abiotic reagents means the non-living. So wind and water in animals, reptiles, mammals, insects, birds. Then what are the adaptation for pollination? There are kinds of adaptation. First one is water pollination, which is also known as hydrophily. So hydro say you can relate here, it is related to the water. What is hydrophily? It is a form of pollination in which pollens are distributed by water. Means एक फॉर्म है पॉलिनेशन का जिसके अंदर पॉलेंस डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होते हैं बाय अ मीडियम विच इज़ नोन एज वाटर. एक मीडियम के थ्रू जो कि है what medium is required here, which is water, so it is known as hydrophily. It is very common in algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes and some angiosperms. Then Vallisneria and Hydrilla are submerged freshwater hydrophytes in which hydrophily is also observed. These can also be examples of hydrophily. Then in seagrasses, female flowers are submerged in water to receive pollen grains for pollination inside water. Pollen are longed, needle-like and are carried passively by water. Then another examples come is, please guys note down these notes, these are really very important, very important, and learn them just thoroughly. Now coming up to the topic, the another example is Zostera is a marine angiosperm in which hydrophily is observed. In Vallisneria, it is the female flower stalk which is coiled to reach the water surface to receive the pollen grains carried by water currents. So guys, this is the adaptation of water pollination, known as also hydrophily. Then the next is adaptation of wind pollination, which is also known as anemophily. So it is the form of pollination in which wind distributes the pollens. Wind distributes करता रहता है pollen grains को, that is known as anemophily. Then pollen grains जो होते हैं वो light in weight होते हैं. This is the most important. Pollen grains कैसे होते हैं? Light weight होते हैं, non-sticky होते हैं, dry and winged. Then stamens are well exposed for easily dispersal of pollen grains in the wind. This stigma is sticky. Stigma is sticky, but the pollen grains are not sticky. That's why the pollen grains stick to them. The stigma is sticky, large, feathery to trap pollen grains floating in the air. The next one is numerous flowers are packed together to form inflorescence. Coming up to the next kind of pollination, which is insect pollination, also known as entomophily. It is the form of pollination in which insects distribute pollens is called entomophily. Flowers are very large, sticky and brightly colored in this. They have honey and nectar glands which are highly fragrant to attract insects. The pollen grain surface is sticky due to exine layer and stigma is sticky due to mucilaginous secretion. Flowers offer floral rewards like nectar and pollen grains for pollination to insects. In some species, floral rewards provide safe play to lay eggs. For example, Amorphophallus. You have to learn all the examples also. The flowers sometimes secrete foul odor to attract insects like flies and beetles. So the next topic is pollen-pistil interaction. All the events from pollen deposition on the stigma until the entry of the pollen tube into the ovule are together known as pollen-pistil interaction. So whatever all the events from the pollen deposition on the stigma, जो भी होते हैं events on the deposition on the stigma of the pollen grain until they enter into the pollen tubes or through the pollen tubes into the ovule, this together all the events called pollen pistil interaction. Then it is a dynamic process involving pollen recognition by stigma pistil of compatible pollen. The third point is incomplete pollen or sterile pollens are rejected by the pistils. So जो incompatible और the sterile pollens होते हैं वो reject हो जाते हैं by the pistils and do not allow growth of pollen tube. Compatible pollens are encouraged by pistil for growth and development of pollen tubes. The pollen tube grows through stigma and style to reach the ovary. It then enters the ovule through micropyle and reach the synergids guided by filiform apparatus. So guys, thanks for watching my video. We will meet in the next video, which will be with the chapter 2 of another topic, artificial hybridization. So guys, stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, comment down below and press bell icon for more notifications. Thank you guys.